All right, so I think the best way to start this off is if you want to introduce yourself and maybe give a bit of background about what it is you do as an artist, because there's a lot of different styles of people who are participating in these events.
All right, so I'm known as 431 Aidan. I make underground music, also known as Plug and B. I make melodic beats. Most of the time, I do produce some of my beats, but I just make songs just on my phone, and recently it's gotten traction.
Cool, cool. Well, maybe just dig into the idea of making songs on your phone, because I think that's one of the cool things about sort of this weird future we're all in, where I mean, you don't necessarily need to have anything more than a phone to be able to create beats now. It's crazy
Yeah,
how convenient it is. Is that sort of where you started as well? Just kind of
yeah,
experimenting on a phone?
yeah. I've been actually making music on my phone for the past 4 years. At first, I was just making joke music back in middle school, just like sending it to my friends, just wanted to make them laugh. But then, like recently, I started to make music, just like putting actual effort into it, and then a lot of people started to like it, and now I'm just doing that.
Have you Oh, obviously the phone is working for you. I mean, like you said, people are
Yeah,
digging it. Have you considered sort of expanding to more, I guess, sort of traditional equipment for making beats, or are you comfortable with
yeah,
what you have options with on the phone?
yeah. Well, at the moment, I don't have enough funds for me to use that other kind of
Sure.
equipment, but right now the phone is like the most easiest stuff that I can use right now.
No, that's cool. It definitely goes to show how convenient it is to make music. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
the barriers that even 5 years ago that were there have dropped now. It's very cool. Um, how long have you been doing this? I know you said at first you were making joke music, but what's sort of the timeline for how long you've been sort of taking this seriously?
Okay, so I started making music as 431 Aiden only last year. Yeah, only last year.
Okay, so I mean I think like a lot of people involved in these future music events, you're fairly new to this. You have a
Yeah.
kind of like a very short timeline of having been part of the local music scene. What does this event mean to you as far as having the opportunity to sort of showcase what you do to maybe people who haven't heard you before?
Well, I mean, it's a really good time for me to get my traction out right now because a lot of people haven't actually heard my music. Like only just in Canada, a lot of people have heard my music. So I feel like this
Right.
performance, if it gets traction on social media, then I can start just networking with other people like that, and then possibly do collaborations like this.
Sure, sure. And I guess like again, having only been sort of doing this for a year or so, what is your have you sort of figured out where you fit within the local music scene? I mean, I know there's the scene is so huge and there's so many different genres and like you said, you're sort of doing making melodic beats, which is not
Yeah.
necessarily the same as all the other artists who are participating in these. But have you kind of found your place yet within the local music scene? Other artists that maybe you feel a kinship with and things like that?
No, no. I just feel like I'm doing my own stuff. Not really like people are doing the same kind of stuff as me. I just want to make something that's different from everyone else.
Sure. Well, I think that's a good, good path to take.
Yeah.
So what are you influenced by? What kind of music is inspiring the stuff that you're doing now?
If I could say like artists that would inspire me, that would
Sure.
probably be
Yeah,
a
that's
little
that's
bit
the best
deeper.
way. Yeah,
I used to listen to a lot of Lil Yachty and Juice World, and they were one of my big inspirations, especially with XXXTentacion.
sure.
Yeah, and I started getting inspiration from like their songs and their lyrics and stuff, and I just started taking inspiration from them, and then that's why I actually got into recording music.
Okay, okay. So were you
Yeah.
I mean, because you're doing more melodic stuff, I mean, had you had any experience whether it was playing instruments or singing or rapping or any of this stuff beforehand?
Yeah. When I was around like 8 years old, I used to always play the drums when I used to
Okay.
go to my uncle's place because he had a drum set, and I was always into drums. And I'm recently getting into like learning how to do drum kits myself, so I can start like making my own beats again because I haven't done that in like a year and a half now. So
Okay, so that rhythmic aspect of it was always sort of there for you.
yeah, yeah,
And again, because a lot of the people participating in this thing are new or up and coming, or people are getting to know your music and everyone else's music. What's the best way to find out more about what you're doing? Where can people hear your stuff? Where can they find out about potential upcoming shows? After this and things like that.
yeah. Okay, so you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, pretty much any streaming platform. 431 Aiden, the number 431, and then Aiden Aidan. And yeah, I'm pretty much performing on the 30th. If you guys want to buy some tickets, I have tickets in hand. I only have like 10, 15 left, so pretty much got to get them gone this week. If you guys want to buy them, just hit me up in the DMs anywhere. I'll get to you as soon as possible.
Right on. And then I just before I let you go, the 431 thing is interesting because I mean I know that is the I have a cell phone with that area code too,
Yeah.
but I've always seen 204, 204, 204 always as sort of the
Yeah.
signifier of Winnipeg. And even though I have a phone with 431, I don't necessarily think of 431 as being like the Winnipeg thing. So why did you go with that one? I mean, it is a Manitoba area code, but it's just not
Okay.
as
Yeah.
commonly
Yeah.
used.
Yeah. Because I'm not just from Winnipeg. I always go like all over the place and shit. Because
Okay.
my dad is also from Steinbach, so I was like,
Okay.
oh, okay, it's also in Winnipeg. So and I see everyone using the 204 as well, and I think 204 is just overused. And I used to have a 431 number before they cut off my number when they started making the 204 numbers because there was like a lot of 204.
Yeah, it's just I think it's the first time I've seen 204. Sorry, 431
Yeah.
used in an artist name because yeah, it's probably gonna start happening I think more often too because now
Yeah.
there's so
Yeah.
many numbers out there. Yeah, right on. Cool. Well, yeah. So people should check you out on the streaming services. What about on social media? Is there anywhere that someone should be looking to find out more about what you do, future shows, future releases?
Oh, it's same shit, just Instagram. I barely post on there, but usually if you want to find something like a new release or something that comes out like probably 2 days before, I usually post like little snippets. So if you want to listen to
Cool.
that, then it's always on my Instagram stories, but it's only going to be up for 2 hours. Most of my snippets are only going to be up for 2 hours, then they get deleted.
Okay, right on, right on. Okay, so I think the best way to start off with you is, I mean, most of the people who I've talked to over the past couple of years doing this event are new up and coming artists. And I mean,
Yeah,
you're a familiar face and name to me in the fact that you've been on the podcast before, and that was like
yeah,
4 years ago. So you might be in a bit of a
Literally,
different position than some of the other people participating in this thing because you've been making music in the city for a while. So maybe if you want to
exactly.
introduce yourself, give a bit of background about what you do, and we can sort of take it from there.
Sounds good. So I'm Thatcher Robinson. When I first had the interview with Witchpolice, I used to be, I would say not, I would say it was alternative rap, but it was a lot more New York type rap. So since then, I was also figuring out my sound at the time, right? So it was all right. But nowadays, I have that sound down, right? It took years and stuff to kind of find different things, different experimentation. So now it kind of goes under alternative rap. But every single album I make is different sounds, right? So I'll have one that's influenced by Atlanta. I'll have one that's influenced by New York. I'll have one that's influenced by Canadian music, right?
Right,
Uh, that's what curates my sound and creates a sound, right? Because sometimes I'll have like singing songs, sometimes I'll have very aggressive songs, sometimes I'll just have like rap songs. And everybody that listens to it, they have definitely like everyone has a different favorite. So I'll bring out an EP and people will be like, I really like this song, you should make more music like this, or I really like this song, you should make more music like this. And it's like, well, what I'm doing, I feel like is working because I could show 10 people and all 10 people are going to say they like a different song because
right.
everybody's different, right. It's cool.
So yeah,
But yeah,
that is cool. That is cool. So I mean, I guess as a more established artist, because like I said, a lot of people who are doing these future music competitions are they've been doing it for a year, they've been doing it for 6 months or 2 years.
yeah,
You're an established artist. You've been releasing music. I mean, whether the styles have changed or not, you've been around. You've been making
yeah,
records.
exactly. Just
So
to be
what does
consistent.
this mean for you to be involved in this competition?
Oh, this is pretty sweet. I've seen a couple other people do this, like Vital and Liardi and stuff. They did it really big and kind of put it on. And I was like, this is a really interesting thing. Kind of I don't know if you've ever seen Versus before where they bring out
Yep.
two rappers. Yeah, so it kind of really reminded me of that. I was like, this is like a Winnipeg Versus almost. This is sweet. So I'm like for performance wise, I don't know if you've ever seen any clips or anything, but something I really kind of like I'm super good at, I'm dominant at my career is performing and putting on a show, right? So I was like, this is cool to like kind of that they did this and they're putting this on and that they can involve me in it, right? It's pretty sweet to see.
As someone who not to dwell on the fact that you've been around for a while doing this, but I mean with experience, how do you sort of see the local hip hop scene now, as someone who's sort of been through different ebbs and flows of how things have gone on locally
It's
in the community?
it's at a peak, I would say, for hip hop at least. Like Feta's helping a lot of people, as ODJ Despair. Like lots of these older cats are helping the younger cats. We're bringing in way more people than we ever have rap wise. Like I couldn't even. I remember like maybe 5 6 years ago, there'd maybe be 3 or 4 rappers that would come to Winnipeg. We've already had like 10 bigger rappers that came to the city. The EEC, Bulldogs is putting on a bunch of shows. Limelight's bringing even a bunch of people. It's crazy to see. So the city's finally like people are actually not skipping Winnipeg, Manitoba as a tour, but adding it to their tour and realizing that we're a city that like really, really likes performers and can put on for these people, right?
Yeah.
Everyone loves the city. Like I met, if you know who Little Xan is, I met him in April, right? I did a show with him, and he was tripped out by how much everyone is reacting here in comparison to other parts of Canada, like Alberta and stuff. He's like, you guys have a really, really good energy, and I'm sure you've even seen it with like Comeback Kid, lots of early punk, right? So we've always been a city that had that possibility. It's just for a long time, for some reason, it went flatter. And then now it's almost like it reminds me of the old Comeback Kid stories and the old punk city era and stuff. It's cool to see all these new names. It's cool to see all these people. I try to, being someone that's older in the scene too, I try to help lots of these kids with like saying like scams and stuff, or like certain people have tried to bring down bigger artists and they spent like $4,000, $5,000 thinking that's going to make their career. But
Right.
it's like at the end of the day, it's just going to be people that come for that person. You have to work more on your sound, your image, your like brand in general, right?
Well, how maybe that's a good segue into how do you sort of define what it is you do now? I mean, like you said, you switch styles, you have something for everyone sort of in your bag of
Yeah.
tricks as an artist, but do you have I mean, if someone hears you make music and you want to give them like a quick Cole's Notes version of what it is that you do, how do you define it in 2024?
This is like it's weird because
It sucks as
here's
a question, I know.
no, it's a good question. It's a good question. But hip hop now, it's so hard to determine because they're creating so many different subgenres.
That's
So
right.
now there's like nightcore, this. So I think it would fall under like it's like not digital core, but there's a certain name for it. It's like the Atlanta kind of music, right? Like Playboy Cardi or Yeet, if you've ever heard of those guys, where they use lots of like old video games, nostalgic digital sounds.
Sure.
It's almost like a nostalgic rap that has new cadences and new sounds and new flows, right? Because I'm inspired heavily off the early 90s and stuff for my wordplay and my lyricism, but I'm inspired lots of like off the punk guys and stuff for the way they make the songs flow, right? The catchiness of the music, the catchiness of the hooks,
Yeah.
like Jimmy Eat World and stuff, where it's like that super catchy music, right? I've taken those characteristics from these like punk and rock bands and then taken the like harshness or the lyricism and stories of rap and mixed them to two, right? Not like my music is too like I do have a couple of moving songs that are more emotional, but it's mostly music that just like you can enjoy and you can have a party. I would say it's club rap,
Okay.
club hip hop. There we go. That's what I could define it as the best because you could put
Okay.
it in a club and people will start bobbing their head.
Right on, right on. Well, and that's obviously good for something like this where you're going to be in a club, performing with a bunch of other artists, trying to
Exactly.
get the crowd's attention, right? Um,
Yeah.
at this point, what's the best way for people to hear your music? I mean, I know that there's so many different ways people consume music nowadays. If someone was hearing you for the first time, where would you direct them to find your stuff?
For some reason, because of the early times of trying to, get music on and process it and stuff, all of my albums, like all of them, are on Spotify.
Okay.
And then there's some SoundCloud exclusives, but my new albums are on iTunes. They're all on everything. But like for some reason, when I first got a distributor, I got a copyright check, and they were only letting me put it on Spotify, even though I curated the whole album. I think it's because I sampled something or something. So
Yeah, yeah,
Spotify would actually have all of my albums, like all the Thatcher Robinson albums. If someone's trying to delve deep into my music and check out my whole catalog, if someone more or less is just trying to listen to the more polished new music, though, iTunes, Amazon Music, SoundCloud, YouTube. I also do have exclusive videos on YouTube that I couldn't get the sample like passed to get on an album. Like I
yeah,
forgot the guy, but I sampled this one song called Hindenburg Love and changed it to Hindenburg Lover and kind of stretched his voice and stuff as a hook, kind of like one of those like if you ever heard those songs where they sample the pop artist into a
yeah.
hip hop beat, yeah, kind of thing. So there's some music like that too where you have to go on YouTube for it. So YouTube, Spotify, and then iTunes, SoundCloud. Most of my albums are on iTunes, but not all of them. Some exclusives for SoundCloud, some exclusives for Spotify, and some exclusives for YouTube. But I also like putting that out as like an artist kind of for people to find, like, because if someone is a really big fan and they're listening to my music and one day they go to my YouTube, it gives them more of an incentive to kind of like go on all different platforms and check out everything.
And dig for the stuff they can't find. Yeah, yeah, for sure,
Exactly.
for
It's
sure.
super cool.
And then the good thing about this being a podcast is obviously people are going to listen to it before this event happens, but it's going to be out there floating around the internet for forever, right? So if
Oh,
someone
for
hears
sure.
this like a year from now and they want to find out what you're up to, what's the best way to sort of find out about upcoming shows, upcoming releases, and that kind of stuff?
I like to use Instagram the most. So at Thatcher Robinson, no spaces, spelled the exact same way as my rap artist name, just without a space. Instagram's just the easiest format to use. I've tried use like it's also most of the people that like follow me and check out my stuff. Most of the people that come to my shows, it's Instagram, because Facebook I feel like is older. Facebook's like 30 plus, usually heavily used, right? I still use Facebook, but it's not my main like source of promotion. And then Instagram's like 20 to 40, I feel like, right? Which is a
Right.
perfect range. And now all these younger cats, they love their TikTok and stuff. I personally have no idea how to use it. It's coming with age. I look at it, I'm like, how do you edit these videos? So
No, I know
maybe
what you
one day
mean.
I'll check it out. I'm not hating on it. Like, it's cool to see, like, you can get so much knowledge and different things from these 15-second videos, right? So be cool to check out one day.
Right on, right on. So I think the best way to start this off is if you want to introduce yourself and give a bit of background about what it is you do as an artist.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm YBK Shakur. That's YBK Shakur, like Tupac Shakur. YBK stands for Young Black King or You Born King.
Okay.
Essentially, I make, I suppose you could classify it as hip hop, rap, music, but I think, like I'm quite versatile when it comes to the music making. I started off playing like classical music and jazz.
Oh,
So
cool.
there's a lot of those elements into my music, like I love performing live, with my live band. I think that's my best performance personally, when it's a better connection, interaction, engagement, just a better experience overall. So yeah, that's what I do. I make music, I'm a songwriter, performer, entertainer. I also
Cool.
have my own business, so a man of a couple hats.
Right on. Well, I was going to ask you about the live band stuff because I was looking at some of your videos on social media, and that is kind of a unique element, I think, for a lot of people doing hip hop in Winnipeg. There's not a ton of people who are performing with a live band, and it definitely gives a unique sort of sound and vibe to the whole thing. What was the kind of impetus for working with live musicians? Why did you decide to go that route?
Man, honestly, like I'm still a band kid at heart, like I spent like what 8 years, 6 years of my life playing band,
Oh
playing
yeah,
jazz band, and it just stuck with me. I think just something beautiful about translating music into like a live instrumental performance. You know what I mean? Like instruments like, the flute, the drums, the piano, trombone, saxophone, trumpet, those are all very like beautifully vocal instruments, and I
yeah,
think it's a special element to the music and creates a deeper connection, you know what I mean? Like the vibrations are just different, and so I really wanted to incorporate that because I like to think of myself not just as a rapper or an artist, quote unquote, but as a performer, as an entertainer. Like, I also do a lot of like theater. I'm getting
okay,
into that. I want to get into acting and directing someday. I used to model. So when I'm on stage, I'm always thinking about how can I present the best performance? How could I create the best experience, for my audience? And so that was the reason why I went with the live band because I thought it was like a element that completely different from it shows people like I think live band performance is essentially like the epitome of hip hop, like it's the combination of different genres, it's the combination of different inspiration, it's the combination of different like cultures and
yeah.
different ideas, and that's what makes hip hop hip hop. Yeah.
Well, and like you said earlier too, like you're a performer. That having that live band that brings a whole extra element to the live show as well. I mean, not just sonically, but just in terms of energy and just getting the crowd into it and stuff. It's a different sound, right? I mean,
Yeah.
nothing against someone playing a file as the background music, but there's a
Yeah.
huge difference when you have a drum set and everything else there for sure.
Yeah, I think there's different audiences for it too. You know what I mean? There's an audience that would listen to like hip hop music, and there's an audience that will listen to live music, and there's an audience that will listen to both, right?
Yeah,
For me, a big inspiration was like watching things like Tiny Desk, watching NPR, watching uh Audio Mac live sessions, like all of these were big inspirations to me because I'm seeing artists that I respect, I'm inspired by, that I aspire to be like, and they are doing this amazing live renditions of their songs and
yeah,
sounds even better than the regular version, So
for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I think it's a different, that more people should look into.
I agree for sure, for sure. So you've been doing this for a while now. When did you start making music? Obviously, like you said, you were a band kid, you have all that experience, but when did you start kind of composing your own music and performing in the format that you do now?
Yeah. So I suppose that'd be like recorded music, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, so I started recording music late 2019. I know technically that's like COVID years, but like in Winnipeg, COVID didn't really hit till like 2020, you know? So I started like late 2019, and then when COVID hit in 2020, I was like, man, this get like perfect timing, you know? Because I'm not really doing much, you know, I'm just at home, you know? Like it's time to, you know, put in the work and try to hone this craft, you know, master this skill. And so that's what I did in 2019, 2020. That's when I started. And I didn't drop my first music till like 2022. It's been like touch and go a little bit here and there because, like I said, you know, I have my own business and I have a lot of things that I also do, you know, going to school and such.
Yeah.
But I think this year is like the first year since 2020 that I've given music like my full attention. Yeah.
Cool. That's good to hear. So, I mean, you're involved in this competition, this Future Music, these shows that Ezoman is putting on. What does this mean to you? Because you're already an established artist. Like you said, you've been doing this for a few years now. Some of the people participating, you know, they played one show ever, maybe, and this is a huge deal for them. So, what does it mean to you to be involved in something like this? Because you might be coming at it from a different perspective because you have this experience of recording and performing.
Yeah. Honestly, for me, when I was approached, I found it very humbling. You know, like I was honored to be a part of it. I think, and I say this all the time. I like to compare Winnipeg to like a mini New York. You know, we have the cultural diversity, we have like the experiences and like the opportunities. You know, to do things on a big level. I think there's a lot of talents in the city that unfortunately oftentimes goes, you know, unheard, you know, perhaps misrepresented. And so for me, wherever I can, you know, whatever I can do to help push that culture, you know, that hip hop culture, that live music culture that Winnipeg is so strong and is so fond of, you know, if I could help push that to the next level. Personally, I think Winnipeg should be bigger than Toronto when it comes to music, you know.
It would be great if we could. Yeah. We have talent here for sure.
Yeah, you know, and I think it's just a matter of a big part of what I do as a business is try to connect those emerging and those upcoming artists with like established industry folks, you know what I mean, with established entities, you know, because a lot of people, a lot of artists who are coming into the industry, they don't know the opportunities that they have, they don't know where to get started or how to get started or what to do really, you know, it's a bunch of like figuring out, which I had to do. And I mean, sure, you figure it out eventually, but I think that takes a longer process than if we all try to, you know, be part of that process. So that's what this is for me, you know, like every time I go out to the shows, I perform or I just go show support, you know, I'm constantly meeting new artists who I'm inspired by, new artists who, you know, who just have so much talent. I just need perhaps, you know, some straightforward answers, you know, not even guidance, just straightforward answers, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and yeah, that's what it is for me, you know, just being a part of the culture.
And so, if people haven't heard you before, what's the best way to hear your music? What's the best way to find out what you're up to as far as releases and shows and things like that?
Okay. Well, if you haven't heard me before and you want to hear music from me, I'm on all platforms. You can check out my music there. If you want to see me perform, I think perhaps social media might be the best place that I have it the most updated. Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. I'm trying with TikTok, you know. I just started. But yeah, like that's where you'd find information about where my next shows are and what I'm up to. Yeah, it's gonna be a busy few months for me. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's good. That's good to hear. Yeah, for sure. So at these future music events, one of the things that's kind of the most interesting about it is that it's hip hop based, but it's not just hip hop artists, and there's kind of a wide range of different styles and different genres being represented. So I think the best way to start this off is if you want to introduce yourself and just give a bit of background about what it is you do as an artist.
Cool, perfect. Well, my name is Jane Fuentez, and I'm a singer, songwriter, but I've been doing a lot in a lot of other genres. So for future music, you're gonna see somewhat of a hip hop song and a pop song. So yeah, that'll be great, and I'm super excited to be there.
Cool. How long have you been doing this? How long have you been actually performing stuff you're doing?
Performing live. Well, the first time I was on a stage was when I was one, because
Okay.
my parents they liked to perform as well. So I was kind of always around the performance scene in a way. But my first actual show that I got paid for would have been when I was 13, I believe,
Okay.
14. So it's been quite a while now. I'm 22, so I don't know the math. I'm not too good at it, but
Right, but
quite a
the
few
point
years
is that
now.
you have experience and you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, it's
So
been quite a while.
how did you how long did it take you then to sort of develop the sound that you have now? I mean, I know you mentioned there's the hip hop elements, there's the pop elements, you're a singer-songwriter, but you know, how long did it
Mhm.
take you to kind of coalesce all of that into what you do?
Well, I'm still learning. That's a really nice thing about music. You can learn everything you think, and then you still keep learning more. There's never really an ending to it. So I think I'm still really developing my own style. Um, but to get a good flow rocking with music, and booking shows regularly and all that jazz, that took at least a couple years to get everything onto a nice path.
For sure. And so I mean, with kind of a sound that doesn't really fit in one specific genre, as you're covering a lot of different things, have you sort of
Mhm.
found where your place is within the local music scene, or is that still sort of a work in progress?
That is still a work in progress, actually, because I've been a part of a lot of different friend groups that are doing music. So then there's a lot of people from the hip hop side, and then there's a lot of people from band side, and then
Yeah,
just the open mic scene, even going out to little things like that. Um, so I kind of just bounce around. I float around throughout all of the different scenes in a way.
okay. Well, and you mentioned the band side of things, and in looking at your social media, you have a lot of videos of you performing with a band.
Mhm.
Obviously, this is something that's versatile enough that you can do, I guess, in different formats, right? Like, do you prefer playing with a band or do you prefer playing solo? Obviously, it's going to give a different vibe, sort of either way.
Yeah, like you said, it's a different vibe, so it's hard to say. It really depends on what vibe we're going for, you know? So sometimes it's like a lot easier just doing things on my own, because then you don't have to gather everyone
Of
for
course.
practices and all that. So sometimes that's preferable, but then it's also always a lot of fun to perform with your friends and have people by your side. So it depends on which day.
Are you doing the same songs in both settings, or do you have songs that are sort of more obviously this is going to be a song for a full band versus something that's solo?
Yeah, I think all of them are very all my songs we've found a way to make it a band song, even if it doesn't have any live instruments in the recording track,
Right.
it'll still we'll still find a way to do it live. So I think they all work somehow, even though like ones that you think wouldn't.
You obviously have to tweak them a little bit to fit each
Yeah.
setting, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of tweaking and changing things, and even just the timing of songs so we can play them proper and better. And yeah, so the songs sound a lot different live than recording sometimes, but that's kind of the beauty of it, and seeing it live. And then people are like, oh, wait, this is the one that I heard. And then,
Right.
it takes them a second, but it's really fun to do.
Because this is we're talking about an upcoming event that'll be happening sort of right after this podcast comes out. People could hear
Mhm.
this later. They could hear it weeks later, months later, whatever. They might be interested in what you're doing. What's the best way to hear your music, and then also to find out what you're up to as far as potential future shows and things like that?
Cool. So the best way to keep updated on any shows would be Instagram. So that's at Jane Fuentez Music, and that goes for solo events and band events, and anything that I'll be up to. And then right now I have some stuff on SoundCloud, but we're releasing everything about I think a month from today, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So then we'll have stuff on Spotify, Apple Music, all that jazz. Yeah.
Cool. And then for this event, for the future of music shows, there's a lot of people participating in it are very new. There's some people who have sort of more experience. Like you said, you've been playing music for a long time and been
Yeah.
involved in performance for a long time. What does it mean to you to sort of be involved in something like this and getting an opportunity to maybe show your music to people who haven't heard you before?
I'm just really excited to perform in general and meet some more people that I haven't met in the music scene. Um, and yeah, I think it's just going to be a great experience. And going into it and having these opportunities are great. So like shout out to Ezoman and anyone who's putting it together. They're fantastic people for doing this and getting all the musicians together. I think it's just going to be a good experience in general.
Cool. So I think the best way to start is because there's so many different artists taking part in all the different sort of each month in this competition, and everyone's doing different styles. I mean, they're all sort of under the hip hop umbrella, but there's so many different styles within that. Maybe you want to introduce yourself and give a bit of background about what it is you do as an artist.
So I do more like 90s type hip hop, you know what I mean? So like I take most of my inspiration from that. I'm very inspired by like Tupac and Biggie and Nas and them. So I take lots of inspiration from lyrical artists, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like the golden age of hip hop. So when you hear my music, I'm usually very lyrical. So my lyrics usually mean something. And if it doesn't, sometimes there's like wordplay and stuff, you know. And like uh yeah, my beats sometimes they could be trappy, but usually my flow sounds pretty West Coast hip hop sometimes. And but the beats I usually hop on are pretty boom bappy. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, for sure. And as someone who was around, for the '90s era of hip hop, I'm glad to hear that because there's a lot of stuff that's sort of happening now that as an old guy, I don't necessarily get, right? But '90s hip hop for sure is that's like my comfort zone as a listener. What is it about that style that appeals to you? Because I mean, I'm assuming just based on our conversation here, you're a lot younger than I am. You're an up and coming artist. You didn't grow up with this as the main style of hip hop that was popular, right? So what drew you to the older stuff?
So uh so when I when I was growing up, my parents used to always listen to like that type of music. You know what I mean? My dad really liked like Luke Fiasco and like uh I'm trying to think of other artists. I can't really think of it on top of my head, but my mom used to always play like Tupac and them like that, Snoop
Sure.
Dogg. So I was always kind of around that, I guess. And I guess that was always just the music I preferred. You know what I mean? The music that spoke to me most.
For sure. So what I mean, you mentioned, right off the top, the lyrical part of it is what sort of is the appeal to you and something that you focus on. Do you feel like lyrics have been sort of maybe less important in recent years with a lot of people making hip hop music? Because it seems like lyrics have always been important, of course, but it seems like things are a lot more minimal than they used to be, even 20, 30 years ago in terms of how important lyricism is. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with that. Like if you look at some mainstream artists right now, a lot of their lyrics, they're very one barry and like they don't really have nothing to it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's just kind of simple. Which but I mean, I feel like in music now, it's more so how it sounds. If it sounds really good, if it's really catchy,
Yeah.
people would dig. You know what I mean? And that's another thing you'll see in my songs is like usually my choruses are pretty catchy.
Cool. Well, and having having this opportunity to be part of this event, I mean, like we said at the beginning, there's all kinds of artists sort of under the larger hip hop umbrella that are participating in this. What does it mean to you to get a chance to take part in something like this?
Pardon me?
This event that's coming up, the future music event that you're performing at, what
Yeah.
does it mean to you to be involved in something like this? How does it help you as an up and coming artist?
Well, besides this, I've only had one other like big kind of performance, I guess. Like, and I guess I don't know. I feel like it gives me lots of exposure, especially since I'm only 16, turning 17. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's that is a big show for someone your age for sure. Yeah, yeah. So, as someone who's, like you said, 16, what has your impression been so far of the local music scene, of the local rap scene? Because obviously you're not old enough to go to a lot of shows that are
Yeah.
happening. So, what has your sort of experience been with other people in the hip hop community?
Well, I've been I've been to some shows just like I guess the ones I could pop up at and like support.
Yeah.
I've been to like a few, I guess, and I've also been to somewhere I competed in, right? And I guess the guys around there, they all kind of know me now.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I guess it's pretty chill. Like I could like freestyle with them sometimes, and
Cool.
you know what I mean? We're all just like, yeah, we're all just chill.
Right on. So if people want to hear you, people are hearing about you for the first time on this podcast, what's the best way to find your music? Where can they hear what it is that you do? Do you have any releases out and things like that now?
Yeah, all my music is out on every platform. So I'm on Spotify, YouTube Music, and all that.
Cool, cool. And then as far as finding out about future things, is there somewhere on social media you would suggest people follow you to find out about maybe upcoming shows or upcoming releases you have in the future?
Yeah, my Instagram is Xotik.peg. So XOTIK.PEG.
And what's the meaning behind the stage name? Why Xotik?
Xotik, well, like when I just started making music,
Yeah,
and becoming a rapper and just an artist in general, like I thought my music was very different than everyone else because everyone else was like, you know what I mean? Like it was like I was more old hip hop and everyone was like more like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Newer and stuff. So I thought I was like exotic, you know what I mean? I
for sure.
stood up. Yeah.
That makes
My
sense,
name
definitely.
my name also starts with an X. So I was trying to think of something where I could put an X at the start, you know what I mean? And then yeah.
Cool, cool. All right.